Hi again, welcome to part 2 of the Little Mermaid retrospective. It's been 2 months since part 1. My apologies for that. I found it hard to get back in the groove of content creating after returning from my Christmas vacation, which would be an invalid excuse if I were a real content creator, but I'm not, so people seem to be okay with it. During that vacation, my fiancé and I recorded our thoughts on every episode of Gargoyles, so I'll be editing and posting those in a few weeks once I've finished talking about all the Little Mermaid episodes. And hopefully, I'll be catching up on the TAPAS podcast as well. It's going to be a busy year, 2020, but hopefully a year in which I finally get to create something. The first Little Mermaid retrospective very swiftly became the second most popular video on the channel, second only to the first TAPAS podcast, so I'm very happy for that. I'd be happier if there was even one comment among those 100+ hits, but I'm happy as is. So let's take a gander at the next 4 episodes of The Little Mermaid. We're back with episode 5, Double Bubble. The thumbnail depicts the lobster mobster with a pair of twin merbabies. I do believe I saw this episode as a kid. The episode opens with the Count and Countess of Clam Bakersfield. This show is so stupid right out the gate, gotta acknowledge that. They're coming to visit King Triton. They're a classic ugly guy, hot wife couple, played by Jim Cummings and Kath Soucie. And they have twin babies. The Count says that last time he saw Triton, his hair was still red. I believe Triton was depicted as a redhead in The Little Mermaid 3, which came out 16 years after this show. I wonder if there was any actual connection there between this episode and that movie. Surprising that they managed to hold up that continuity. Not usually terribly strong with that. Ariel volunteers to babysit the twins, whilst Triton takes the Count and Countess on a tour, and they immediately dissolve to the twins, causing much chaos and destruction. Sebastian and Flounder help, kinda, and while Ariel goes to fetch some toys, the babies just take off, right under Sebastian's non-existent nose. So our trio go out into Atlantica, freaking out, trying to find them. In the meantime, the lobster mobster, coveting the Countess's pearls, decides to steal the twins and ransom them back to their mother, planning to steal them with a gun that encases them in a bubble. Yeah, that ain't how bubbles work. Ariel and her 2 animal sidekicks come upon the merbabies about to be eaten by a giant squid. Oy vey, that's perilous. That's the kind of thing that doesn't scare you as a kid, but as an adult freaks you the heck out. While Ariel saves Flounder from the squid, the lobster and shrimp steal the twins from Sebastian, who gets attacked by a shark. What's with all the predators in peril? This would be hella traumatic. Meanwhile, the bad guys have to take care of the babies. That feels like a classic trope, and it's, I suppose, mildly amusing. This episode's musical number is the Betty Bye Blues, a gangster-themed lullaby. It's pretty good. I did retain some of the lyrics from way back when I saw this episode in childhood. After the song, they lose the babies in a whirlpool. As you do, whirlpool action scene as our heroes arrive, rescuing the babies and the gangsters from the cyclone. Ariel has to tend to an unconscious Sebastian, leading the gangsters to chase after the babies, who are inadvertently rescued by a massive whale, and are left in the ruins of what appears to be an ancient Greek city? Sunken? What is it, like Atlantis or something? That's stupid, Atlantis being within swimming distance of Atlantica? Well, what's up with that? Ariel rescues the twins, while the lobster and shrimp are left to deal with that shock. Except pursued by a shock, as Shakespeare might say. It's supposed to be comical, but I'm terrified for them. Then the episode ends with the one thing of value for K&K, a magical rite of passage ceremony performed by King Triton, at which moment the twins start swimming. They didn't swim before, they crawled along the seafloor. It was cute. Okay, credits, Joni Gerber. That's a vaguely familiar name. She must have played the babies. She's a Gerber baby. Looking her up, Mrs. Beakley from DuckTales. That's how I recognized her, and oh boy, her voice acting career goes way back. Next episode, Message in a Bottle. Classic nautical trope, that, the message in a bottle. And according to the episode summary, well, that was kind of a spoiler of an episode summary, but I've definitely seen this episode as well. Way back when. We open on Ariel picking some flowers when she finds a gigantic bottle with a message inside. While Sebastian is wary of it, thinking it's a human artifact, they make a big production out of opening the bottle and retrieving the message. Good at filler, this show. The message is from someone named Simon, who states he's been imprisoned in a cave by a sea monster and drawn a little map. Classic. So Ariel wants to go rescue Simon, and who the frack are these bozos? A tribe of eel-like monsters who are sneaking into Atlantica disguised as anemones. What the actual hell? I didn't expect that, and I've seen this episode. It was a long time ago. I do now vaguely recall these anemone bastards. Did not before. They managed to surprise me. Ariel finds her way to the sea monster's cave and is assisted by a lanternfish doing an Edwin impression. Sure, why not? This party goes through the cave, encounters a giant squid with a badass voice, and gets sucked into the depths of the cave, where they meet the sea monster, played by Brian Cummings. The sea monster has a really annoying simpleton voice. I've never been fond of that trope, the big dumb guy that talks like this. Anyway, Ariel confronts the sea monster, and it turns out Simon and the sea monster are one and the same. Simon is the sea monster and wrote the note for sympathy points in the hopes of making some friends. This episode's musical number comes from Ariel, encouraging Simon to develop a positive attitude, and then maybe he'll have a better time making friends. I'm paraphrasing some unexceptional lyrics. Anyway, Ariel, Sebastian, and Flounder bring Simon back to Atlantica in the hopes of introducing him to some new peoples. Naturally, Triton is terrified to see him coming, and Simon gets himself stuck in the palace gates. Triton is good and sympathetic when Ariel explains things and urges them to play quietly. They play with a sand dollar, tossing it like a frisbee, and it's sapient. This show's weird. You'd never think from the movie that the world it takes place in was quite this bizarre. That night, Simon sleeps among the anemones. Not a good idea. Anemones sting. It humiliates the weird eel frog people. Anyway, sea monsters. Not enough of those in fantasy gaming, since most gamers find underwater adventures to be rather boring. I looked into it a moment ago, and in the current D&D game, an underwater adventure is actually a pretty difficult thing to accomplish. The spells you have to use to get any kind of underwater mobility there. Basically what Donald does in Kingdom Hearts 1 to travel in Atlantica, it's not very easy in D&D. So the next morning, the eel guys make their attack, breaking down the doors and doing some looting, but Simon helps Triton drive them off. Simon has found he enjoyed the experience of making friends and decides to make more friends elsewhere, and off he goes, never to be seen again. At least, I assume. Disney Wiki says he's a one-shot character, and I believe them. They're very meticulous. So Ariel's sisters haven't really had any development yet. A few lines here and there, but they haven't really done anything. Which, you'd think that would be a source of writing for the show. Our next episode is called Charmed. You know what I just noticed? How much of the footage in the title sequence comes from the first episode that's not on Disney+. That truly is going to drive me crazy. What is up with that first episode? So, what flimsy pretext for a plot do we have in this episode? Well, Ariel wants to go for a swim with her daddy, but he has a haircut, a meeting with some heads of state, and is refereeing a wrestling match. I guess that's what kings do all day. So she goes with Flounder instead, searching a shipwreck for treasure, not unlike in the film. They find a portrait of some stuffy human woman, a mirror, a map, a magnifying glass, the last of which Ariel takes home with her and dubs a bigger-majigger. Triton catches her playing with a human artifact and confiscates it despite her objections about its usefulness. He disintegrates with his trident and feels bad when he realizes this has betrayed her feelings. I'm feeling like we're low-key doing the movie right now. This is sort of kind of the movie. Ariel is sick of being told what to do and heads into a dark, scary ravine for no reason. At one point, Flounder tries to advise against it, and she's like, "What, are you my father?" And he briefly ponders what he'd be like as a father, and the horrifying possibility that he'd have a daughter like Ariel. That was a good moment, more nuanced than the writing in this show usually gets. And a nice call forward if you're aware, as I am, that in The Little Mermaid 2, Flounder is in fact a father, though I don't think he has to deal with a kid like Ariel, if I recall correctly. In the abyss, Ariel and Flounder see something glittering gold and come upon a lovely charm bracelet with charms of a castle, a ballerina, and a teddy bear. Flounder isn't too happy about how she's already found another human thing. Ariel, remarkably, considering the writing of this character usually goes, soon figures out that it is in fact a bracelet, and goes to check the mirror in the shipwreck, Do merfolk not have mirrors? She had a mirror in the movie in that communal beautification area she has with her sisters, yeah? Anyway, after some time admiring herself, Ariel finds that she can't remove the bracelet, meaning she's pretty much busted, so she's scared to go home. Then she realizes that there's a keyhole in the bracelet, and she needs the fourth charm, the key, which broke off and got left behind in the abyss when she first found it. Whoa. Meanwhile, Triton's been trying to puzzle out how to give Ariel a sincere, meaningful apology. So worried about that he doesn't seem to notice she hasn't returned home. Ariel finds the key, but along with a whole bunch of other sea life, she gets sucked into the bottom of the abyss. Say what now? Oh my god, there's a sarlacc. The legends were true. At the bottom of the abyss is this terrifying round mouthful of teeth, and when the sun goes down, it sucks everything into its evil maw. This show is off the rails crazy. And Ariel is about to be chewed up by the sarlacc. It's more of a Charybdis kind of thing, to be fair, from the Odyssey. Not so much a sarlacc. And anyway, Ariel somehow survives, and oh my god, the creature comes back and spits out all the bones of its previous victims. Oh my god. Ariel meets a boy who's some combination of merman and eel, who identifies the Charybdis creature as a flow monster and enjoys watching it. That's morbid. He's confident that there's no way Ariel will make it out of here before the creature's feeding resumes. Okay, lots of funky deep sea life in the bottom of the abyss here in this episode. Not as funky as real deep sea life, but pretty funky. Ariel comes across a sea hag with a soul bag, like you do, and there's creepy sea bees, and it's very perilous. Ridiculously so how perilous this show is. I mean, I'm not saying I don't want it to have stakes, but the stakes are ridiculously high for the slice-of-life tone they're going for. Triton is starting to worry about Ariel when Flounder reports their activities in the Great Abyss. Triton goes searching for Ariel just as the flow monster starts a-sucking again. Triton and Flounder willingly dive into the whirlpool to go save her. Triton zaps the flow monster with his trident, and he and Ariel find each other and get into an argument about the charm bracelet, but now's not the time, so they escape the abyss with Triton's awesome powers. Once the flow monster is done feeding Ariel, oh goddammit, it starts feeding again! How was this ever not a problem? Ariel and Triton unlock the charm bracelet and allow it to be taken down by the flow monster's suckiness. Triton realizes he's made Ariel afraid to come to him with her problems, and promises to listen to her from now on. Well, that's a swell moral. For parents. Not a whole lot of reason for parents to watch this show, it doesn't have that multiple demographic appeal. This is very much a kid's show. Voice actors in this episode include Scott Menville. I know who that is. Didn't know he's been around that long. That's nice. Not sure who he could have played. And Betty Ford and Hal Rail. Don't know who they are. And, no Jim Cummings in the credits, even though I'm sure I heard him among the deep-sea creatures. And there was no song in this episode. But that's okay, because there was a frickin' sarlacc in this episode. A relentless, sucking sarlacc. Okay. And finally today, we have episode 8, Marriage of Inconvenience. Ariel swims around humming Part of Your World. Does that often. When she comes upon a giant monster, passes out, and is rescued by Urchin. Okay, yeah, I had a feeling when I saw the monster that this is just a dream someone was having. Urchin, presumably. Yeah, he wakes up and has a brief moment of panic when he sees Sebastian, there to deliver a message from Ariel about, hanging out. There's a fun water slide. Of course, underwater, they would just call it a slide, you'd think. Okay, Urchin is definitely nursing some sort of crush on Ariel. Poor lad. Too young for her. Triton, meanwhile, seems to be pondering setting up an arranged marriage between Ariel and one Prince Thor of Olympia. I can't wait to find out how that's not at all what he's planning. My current guess is that Prince Thor is very, very young and Ariel is to be his babysitter, but that's just a guess based on, having seen shows before. Later, Triton goes on his diplomatic mission thingy to Olympia, and Urchin tells Ariel what he suspects about Triton's plans for her and Prince Thor. Ariel finds it unlikely, seeing as she has 6 older unmarried sisters. That's surprisingly practical-minded of her. She has grown up royal, after all. So Triton goes to Augustus of Olympia. Is he like a duke or something? Or maybe a king? I don't know. And tells him that Ariel and Thor would make for a perfect athletics team to foster kinship between their two nations. Augustus is surprisingly not voiced by Jim Cummings, and here I thought I had the show's formula figured out. Thor, uncertain of Ariel's athletic capabilities, decides to go to Atlantica to scope her out. Wacky misunderstandings will no doubt ensue. Thor turns up, and naturally he thinks they're talking about becoming an athletics team, and she thinks they're talking about marriage, and yeah, it's gonna go on way too long, innit? Urchin decides to sabotage Thor's upcoming dinner with Ariel by lying about Atlantican customs. Ugh, this kind of stuff makes me cringe. Secondhand embarrassment is not comedy. It works, and Thor thinks Atlantica is a horrible, barbaric place, but he knows how important the partnership is and tells Ariel they'll be leaving together in the morning. Tenacious little bugger. So the next morning, they all scheme to make Ariel look crazy, and this results in Thor thinking Ariel is too good for him. That's funny. Anyway, Thor returns to Olympia and tells his father that Ariel and her friends are big jerks, so Augustus expels Triton from his kingdom. Or whatever Olympia is, if not a kingdom. A nation of some sort, I guess. When Triton returns to Atlantica in a huff, everyone figures out what's really going on, and then Olympia declares war. Natural diddly, their army is immediately at Atlantica's gates and assaulting the kingdom. Yeah, war, that's a fun third-act conflict for an episode. Triton, naturally, fights back with his super OP legendary magic item. I like the capabilities it exhibits here. In the midst of the battle, Ariel goes to Thor and apologizes for the misunderstanding, but Urchin thinks Thor has kidnapped Ariel, and how many misunderstandings can this episode sustain? Urchin has a dream sequence about Ariel being gone and everyone being miserable for it. It goes on for way too long. Peace is declared, and Urchin is all like, sorry about causing a war, I just didn't want Ariel to leave, and Ariel and Thor they compete in the athletics competition as a team, and it's, low budget. The dazzling animation was not a priority for this show. Guest voice actors in this episode, Keen Curtis and Jordan Jacobson. I don't know who either of those guys are. I'm supposed to be a voice acting expert, at least I always saw myself that way, but, not everybody who gets a role in a cartoon is someone who gets lots of roles in cartoons. After all, it's, so I've learned. So, well, sorry if I'm tired, first of all. I didn't get any sleep last night, but, and sorry if I came off overly snarky during this retrospective. I'm not normally the type to make disparaging remarks about what I'm watching to make a mockery of it. This show, it just lacks the quality of certain other Disney Renaissance TV series. I hope I can bring myself to finish it, and you will join me for the whole thing, and then after that, gargoyles. Don't forget to check us out on Patreon, and tune in next time for the next few episodes of The Little Mermaid.